Welcome everybody to GoLocal Live. I'm Josh Fenton, CEO and co-founder of GoLocal. Busy Monday, beautiful day in Providence. It is about, 70, 80 degrees.
Gorgeous.
It's so nice out. Big day in news today, lots of information. Big shakeup at the State House as Alan Fung's wife, Barbara Ann Fenton Fung, announced that she is taking on Nick Mattiello in the House District 15 this coming November. That is a big race to watch. Obviously, the speaker is quite embattled right now, and there's a grand jury sitting on activities between his office and the convention center. Everybody's waiting for that to fall out. Also, Harvey Weinstein, sort of a breakthrough of the Me Too movement, was found guilty on 2 charges this afternoon in Manhattan, New York. And so you can catch up on those on GoLocal Live and a lot more that's coming. I want to welcome Carrie Majewski. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
You are the founder, the guru, CEO of Nexus.
Yes.
We're going to call it Nexus.
Yes.
But it's women in leadership,
Yep.
and it's a group designed to enhance the skill set for a diverse population of women in taking more control and leading organizations, developing their own mindset.
Yep.
Talk a little bit about the thought process before
Yeah,
creating.
well, thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
So excited to be here. So the Women in Leadership Nexus is a professional women's leadership association, and we're really trying to empower women to step into a more amplified level of leadership, however they define that to be. So for some of our members, they're looking to start their own businesses for the first time. Others of our members are looking to switch careers after being in an industry for a couple decades. And then we have some other folks who are just trying their stab at something new. So we really try to say, no matter what you're looking to accelerate with your career development and leadership potential, we're going to arm you with the trainings, the perspectives, the skill sets, and the relationships to really generate that momentum that you're looking for.
And what was the thought process? First of all, the name makes it sound so big time.
Right?
Right?
I kind of pictured people would be at like a local coffee shop and they'd say, have you heard of Nexus? And then they'd be dying to know about it. So I definitely thought about that.
When the info came over that you were coming on,
Yeah.
I immediately went to like the Wall Street Journal and Forbes and Fortune. I'm like, this is such a big time. This must be the chapter of Nexus, Women in Leadership.
Yeah.
Talk about how you came up with the idea.
Yeah, so I started it in Rhode Island. I'm actually from New York, and I moved here about 4 years ago. Rhode Island has been very kind to me. I've
Excellent.
heard, like, as an insider, you have to be a little bit careful when you come in. And
we get a different rhythm here.
You have a different rhythm.
Right.
There's some like insider knowledge you have to have.
Yes.
And I've absolutely adored the Ocean State. And when I came here, I was just really curious about leadership as a concept. I had a really accelerated career where I kind of got thrust into leadership at the age of 24. I was asked to start a content marketing agency for a 40-year-old media company. And just like that, overnight, I get the seat at the table and kind of leapfrogged over those traditional steps. And I started to think about leadership, and so much of what we're taught is true for kind of corporate acceleration is rooted in just like hierarchical norms and systems old ways of thinking. So when I moved here, I thought, well, I don't really know anybody. I should probably try to find a community of women.
So I'm going to create my own?
I'm going to create my own. And it's hilarious because things are never what you think they're going to be when you set out. And I just started blogging about local women, some of the most like well-known women in our state that are just redefining leadership. And they certainly have the title and the prestige and the power, but how they lead is so modern. It's all about empowering their teams and fostering a culture of co-creation. And I wanted to see what would happen when you bring all these women together and just talk about it as a concept.
Why do we struggle with women in leadership as a society? So let me give you a couple examples. Obviously, the 2 of the women who are running for president of the United States are being asked to get out of the race, right? Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar are both being pushed. It's the biggest question that both of them get right now. The same isn't true of Pete Buttigieg or some of the others. The second is, you know, while we have our first female governor in Rhode Island, we did a story, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago about women CEOs, president of hospitals, president of colleges. And over that period of time, the number actually in key leadership positions, CEO level, C-suite, has decreased. How can that be?
I know. I don't know. It's something that keeps me up at night and something that obviously I'm trying to fight through. I think a lot of it is that, and I've seen it more with women kind of bringing down other women versus even sometimes men bringing down women, I think there's a scarcity mindset. I think for so long women have had to claw their way to the top, and then once they get there, it's like, oh my gosh, I've got to protect and defend the turf. And we've got to start changing that conversation. You know, you hear sometimes that women are actually worse to women than men are.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I just think it's rooted in typically ego and insecurity, a lack of opportunity. But I'm happy to say that we're seeing the shift now. You know, you've got groups that are forming and movements towards women banding together, but we need more of that. That's the only way we start to fix this, is to normalize those
And
relationships.
are you seeing young women embracing Nexus? Are you getting that
So
energy?
it's
It's
a great question.
I looked at your sort of board, and it was not 25-year-olds and 30-year-olds. This wasn't a millennial class.
It's so not a millennial thing.
Yeah.
So we actually really struggle to get, we actually have barely any 20-year-olds, to be honest. I think we have about 20% in their 30s. The majority are late 40s and early 50s. And I think a lot of it is because when we hear the term leadership, you need the title on your business card to feel like a leader. And unfortunately, so much of what our self-worth is and our desire to invest in ourselves comes from that org chart and where we sit on it.
But do you think young men would just fake it?
They would be like,
take
oh,
their business
leadership,
card and
I'm
go
in.
like, senior
CEO,
VP with a Sharpie.
Of course they would. They don't need any qualifiers.
Yeah.
And we actually see that with statistics, right? Men are willing to apply for a job where they have like 60% of the credentials. Women need 100%.
We just had a job up. It was more like 5%.
5%.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is something that we're trying to fix. We're really trying to say leadership has nothing to do with title. It has nothing to do with what some person dubbed as your privileges. It's a mindset. It's, you know, your awakening to the potential.
Do we run into more of a problem too as tech becomes it's already completely dominated by men.
Yes.
And as it becomes more and more important in the largest sector of the economy, does that create even more strain, more need for your organization and more infiltration and force of will into that?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely think the timing is just spot on for something like this. And there's a lot of great groups in Rhode Island and all over doing this, because we're seeing the rise of nonlinear career paths and this ability to kind of be one place, one moment, and go over there the next. But it's all about the softer sides of leadership. I mean, it's having relationships, it's having conversation. And those people that can't do that, they're getting left behind.
Right.
So though we're moving, I think, into a time of kind of the great equalizer where anyone can decide they want to start showing up with greater presence and poise, we still have a ways to go. This is just the beginning.
Talk a little bit about transforming sort of the overall corporate mentality, right? For obviously, you just saw it 3 weeks ago. The Wall Street Journal had of the top 500 public companies, less than 1% are led by women. I mean, you almost couldn't believe the numbers. One of those numbers where you're like, is that a typo?
I know.
Go back and read it over and over again. I thought we had so much momentum. I thought we had made so much improvement, but yet the numbers don't, at the end of the day, don't lie. California passed legislation to require women on public companies' boards, and they're having a terrible time finding the women who, A, from the company standpoint, are qualified, B, or that's their argument, or B, the women who are willing to do it. Yeah,
I think it's one of the bigger challenges. I think when you get into startup and small businesses, you're seeing a little bit more of that just desire to evolve the way that they're hiring women and retaining them. But traditional corporate America is still really backwards typically, and we do see that with all the statistics. I think one of the first places that it just starts is an awareness that it's a problem. Like, we have to keep talking about it. So when that article came out, I mean, my entire community was sharing it with each other, and we're like, oh my God, what are we doing about this at Nexus? Because we need to create this culture of just conversation around it.
I'll put it in a little political standpoint. We have a president who is a CEO billionaire. We have two candidates, Mike Bloomberg and Steyer, who are both billionaires. I think on Super Tuesday, between Mike Bloomberg and Steyer, they are expected to spend $200 million on Super Tuesday. The next highest is Sanders at $10 million, and then Amy Klobuchar at $2 million. So she's going to get outspent 100 times. Where do we get the momentum? And there's not a lot of narrative about it, right? No. How do we break that? Politics, business, all of these things. How do we shatter that and not over, whenever somebody says, oh, we didn't get this way overnight, we're not going to be able to change it overnight. Well, when are we going to change it?
When's it going to happen?
Right.
Yeah. I don't have a great answer because it's such an old rooted problem,
Right.
but I think about even Venture Cafe did the female founders night.
Yeah.
It was a couple of
Right.
weeks back because traditionally women struggle to get funding more than men.
Absolutely.
So again, it's like having these events, having these movements, people blogging about it, talking
Well, and how
about
about
it.
this? If a woman misses a beat on
Yeah.
founding a startup,
Yep.
the likelihood of her getting a second
Oh,
shot at a company
it's
is
blown.
0.0.
It's blown, yeah.
We see some of these guys who crashed and burned this company,
course they
crashed
can,
and burned
yeah.
that company, barely exited that one, and
Yeah.
they're on to their fourth company.
Yeah. You know, at the end of the day, it's so challenging because it's so individualized, right? Like how we internalize what it means to be a leader, how to build our businesses. So my hope is just if we keep developing one person at a time,
Yeah.
and then they go and start different companies, they start to invest in other businesses, they join boards, the voice gets a little bit louder.
Yeah.
And that's totally Pollyanna, and I know that. I have to have some faith that, right, when we start with the individual, we start to get that cascading
Now,
effect.
Nexus is your part-time proficiency, daytime your
Daytime, yeah, I lead marketing for a technology and business consulting firm, Trilex.
Yeah.
You know, it's funny because I get asked quite a bit, so is Nexus like your side hustle and then you've got this day job? And I'm like, this is what's wrong with how we view modern day leadership, is we should be encouraging our employees to get fulfilled and fill their cup up in any way that they need to do that.
Right.
So I'm really trying to even model the way that I think the business world will be moving forward, which is your employees are not going to get all their intellectual stimulation in one avenue. It's never going to happen. Right? So whether your employees are going to start other businesses, let's not call it a side hustle anymore, I'm so done with that, or they're going to be involved in civic engagement or philanthropy or
Right.
board service, that's good. It's good for your business. So I'm very lucky I work for an incredible CEO who gets that and is of course a pioneer in and of it himself. But that's really what I'm trying to do, is keep raising awareness to other employers, to the people that that are in my community. We have to ask for what we want. We have to make sure that we're okay with kind of the atypical way that we structure our day, because that's tomorrow. That's
Yeah.
the future of the workforce.
So, where's this organization going to be? Only Mao Zedong had 5 and 10 year plans. Let's go
Yeah.
24 months.
Perfect. All right, good. I thought you were saying 24 years. I'm like, cool. I gotta leave. I think that at the end of the day, the movement to me is bigger than the physicality of the group.
Yeah.
So though I started it in Rhode Island, where over 130 members, the next question I always get is, well, when are you coming to my state? And I don't know that I'm going to go state-based. I think what I'm really looking to do is the national movement, and how do we create some high-level programming now that really anyone can opt in on. We've got surprisingly a huge following on the West Coast, and we've got a lot of traction in like Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York. So I'm looking at how can we create potentially 3-month, 6-month virtual and physical programs that allow our members to dive deeper into a certain leadership concept and explore it there. So to me, the movement of just developing leaders of tomorrow is bigger than the geography that we sit in.
Carrie, if you were to make a presentation to the leading CEOs of Rhode Island, which you may have already done, but let's just say we put 20 of them in a room, what's your message?
Yeah, my message is that the way that we ran our businesses,
And by the way, if I do the math right, 19 of them probably are men.
Okay, so what I would say is that the way we led our businesses even 2 years ago, it's already outdated. So we have to be fighting every single day to figure out how do we make our workplaces more inclusive, more supportive of modern day leadership principles, like really meeting our employees with the development, the access to training, and the relationships that they need. Because especially the next generation coming up, they're not tolerating it.
Yeah.
And I talk about this a lot. I think we're going to have a major opting out movement. And we're already seeing it happen, where the amount of 30-year-olds starting companies is like the highest percentage right now generationally.
Right.
Because people my age, we don't want to play this game anymore, right? If you're going to be, as a boss, somebody who creates a toxic workplace environment, doesn't give us the access to cultivate the leadership skill sets that we need, we'll go start our own businesses or we'll go next door. So to retain top talent, to attract it, to really develop it, we really have to be more people-centric. It can't just be a core value we talk about. We have to live it.
Last comment from you.
Thank you again for having me on. I really appreciate it. I think this work is really important. I'm so honored to be a part of a larger conversation. Again, there's so many incredible groups and individuals and thought leaders in Rhode Island and beyond. And my hope is just that we keep having these conversations. We won't always have the answer. It's too complicated. But the goal should really be developing the workplace of tomorrow that looks a whole lot better than it does today.
Great. Carrie, thanks so much for coming on. She founded Nexus. It's the thing you talk about when you're at a coffee house.
We do.
In developing leadership and a better thought process here in corporate America and across the board. We'll be back tomorrow. I believe Brown University's Warren Alpert is in tomorrow, as well as some other guests, and maybe we'll even see Jennifer Lawless this week talking about Bernie and all of his momentum. Thanks everybody for tuning in. See you back tomorrow.